SQR Podcast, Score Rosenberg Radio, coming in on a gorgeous, gorgeous Tuesday evening in Paterson, New Jersey. We're in the lab and the ambiance is so crisp right now. We're blessed to have it's a very interesting how I met the guest that we have and how we're going to dissect his life and then go on this journey. However, you know how I always start the show. I want to take this moment to big up everybody that tuned into the last show and everyone that's in the house tonight. SQR Podcast, we got an eclectic group of people in the house tonight. We're blessed to have the energy of my boy. Let's slow things down. First and foremost, big shout out to my boy Charles and Manny behind the camera. Thank you so much for holding us down, making sure everything's looking crisp. Yo, to all the guests that are in the peanut gallery, from my boy Joe and the guests that he brought in, thank you so much, sir, for making the energy so right. By the way, salute for the food, my youth. Much respect to that. Big shout out to a guest that's been on the show numerous times, but she's back in the U.S., Jennifer de Kunto, a.k.a. Thank you so much, fresh from South Africa. Thank you so much for being here. We know we have some other guests in the house right now. Big shout out to my boy Max. Big shout out to Lou. Big shout out to my boy Rob in the back holding us down. Ellie, thank you so much for holding us down on the sound. Bing, bing, bing. It's a pleasure to be here, guys. We're cracking in. The ambiance is so crisp right now because tonight I am blessed to have a comedian, an actor, and I'm sure you're going to describe everything else that makes up the resume. My boy Kris Atkins in the house, straight from Texas. SQR Podcast, Score Rosenberg Radio. We're going to crack into what Kris is all about, where you're from, the journey. But before we do that, introduce yourself to the audience and to my listeners and let them know where they could find you on your social media.
I thought you would say where they can find me now.
Let's get it in. I
don't know where the hell I'm at now. It's a side street with an alley. I don't know. It's a field.
I like that.
I'm Kris Atkins, man. I'm from Houston, Texas. Social media is Kris Atkins Comedy with a K. KrisAtkins Comedy.
Okay.
Kris Atkins, that's all the way across my social media. Houston, Texas, man. South Park, represent. What's up?
Yo, let's just lift up these green bottles and toast to these Heinekens right here. For the energy is so right. Let's sip on that real quick. Ah, man. Yo, Heine, the best beer out there, but you might have your choice on that.
This good. I rock with them. I rock with Heineken. Yes.
Bong, thank you so much.
Yes,
anyway,
sir.
Score Rosenberg Podcast, SQR. We're gonna crack into Kris Atkins, and let me just bring people up to speed on where I was blessed to see you perform at the Newark Film Festival. Mm-hmm. You were act maybe number 5 or 6 coming up, and the reason why I mentioned the number that you came up in because you brought the energy of the room up when you performed. You know, I was there checking out my boy Hassan Oliver. Big shout out to Hassan. Bing, bing, bing. And you know, so funny. The reason why I didn't even mention Hassan in the lineup of the guests is because he's in the house covertly, just plotting. You know, because he's going to be an integral part of the movement that we're going to be creating here at SQR Podcast. So big shout out to Hassan. But as I checked you out, I realized that I need to get to you and find out your story because your material was unique. Of course, you coming from Texas, there's an infinity there towards that. So I want to hear your story and your journey. So let's crack into this right now.
Oh man.
Let me ask you this. Originally, where are your parents from, grandparents, the whole initial grounding of the family? Straight from Houston originally?
No, you talking about Mississippi. That's why I sound like this. Everybody be like, that ain't no Houston accent. No, this accent from Mississippi. This is deep cotton picking, tree trunk dragging. This is
Yeah, I'm gonna try to maintain because I know you're a comedian. And
just go on. Let's do it.
No, let's go into, let's go into this because when you mentioned that lineage, I'm thinking, okay, so you probably were experienced and taught some of the struggles that they went through growing up, and so let's just dissect this. What was the household like? How many brothers, sisters? What was that like?
I got 6 older sisters. I'm the youngest and only boy.
Big shout out to that.
That's an accomplishment. You know how much that is to deal with that many women just all the time. That's stress. So
where was Dad?
Hell, I don't know. Hell, if I know I'd have went and got him. You need to come help me. They on my back.
No, it was just mom, 6 girls, and you.
Oh, so that's what it was. Like, so my dad, like, okay, I'm an 80s baby. You know, like a lot of babies in the 80s, their daddies fell to the same thing.
What do you mean by it felt at the same? Let's dissect that. What does that mean?
Listen. Crack era was alive and well in the 80s. It was cocaine if you're rich, crack if you're poor. Like that's what heroin. Like this.
Wow. So you grew up in a family that was afflicted by the whole.
Oh yeah, all around. That's family member, cousins, aunties, parents. Nah, that was it. It was all over.
So you're in Mississippi at this time.
My mama is from Mississippi. My family, like my grandparents, they're from Mississippi. Then they moved to Houston.
Okay.
Some stopped at like New Orleans and stuff, but that's kind of how they did. They most people out of Mississippi after slavery was over, they went up to Mississippi. So that's why it's a big population in Chicago. That's what they did. And so they followed it west too. So they came out to Houston or L.A.
Let me ask you this. You remember your grandparents? You met them?
Just one. Just my grandma. My mama's mama. That's it. I don't know none of the rest of them.
Did you or did she share any stories about what it was like growing up? Did she drop any knowledge or jewels on you that you remember?
I don't want to say is they dropped knowledge and jewels, but they took us to pick cotton. I don't think that's really a jewel, but you learn real quick. You don't want to do this. Somebody wrong as hell for it for free. It's some bullshit.
Seriously.
Seriously. Now we went to pick cotton. They took us to Mississippi.
Wow.
Yeah. Like the bulb, you see the bulb and stuff, and it'll prick your fingers, and it's a little bit. They show you the sack.
What age were you?
Oh hell, we was young. I had to be 5, 6.
What's the most interesting story or experience you remember about that time period?
You mean from going to Mississippi or something?
No, that 5 to 6 when you're picking cotton. I mean, I'm pretty sure you're going back to visit grandma for the summer or whatever, and then all of a sudden, because you're born in Houston, correct?
Yeah, born in Houston.
So you would go back to visit, because I'm just fascinated by what are you thinking at that age? It's oh, was this fun? Oh, I'm just going to go, because as a kid, you're having fun. You're out and you're playing around, or was it you're working?
It started out, I thought we was gonna have fun. That's how it started. I thought this was gonna be fun, but ain't no trees around and just the sun beaming. You realize it ain't fun real quick.
Wow.
Now you get it real fast.
Wow.
You get it. This ain't the right thing.
So let's navigate this journey. So here you are in Houston.
Gotcha.
6 sisters, mom in the house. You're the only male. Were you treated with a little bit more privilege than the girls? Or were you treated a little more crappy because you're the only man, so you got to step up?
You damn right. The latter. That's what it was. I never forget. I was at one of my cousins. One of his mama had passed. We was at the funeral and he spoke, and he kind of grew up in the same situations. And he got up. I never forget. He said, "My mama said." No, he said, "My mama didn't have a man, so she made one."
SQR podcast, Score Rosenberg Radio. Every time you say something profound, we call it dropping a jewel. You just dropped a jewel right now.
Yeah.
Let's repeat that. Say that again.
He said, "My mama ain't have a man, so she made one."
And the reason why I ask you to repeat that, because that is a profound statement. Because when you look at what's going on in our society right now, a lot of women are doing that, and we want to salute them. By the way, what's your mom's name?
My mama named Janet Atkins. That's my baby.
You want to big her up right now for making you a man?
Hey, mama, I love you, girl. That's my baby. She get on my nerve, but I love her like this. My mama made me. I'm talking about I'm 8 years old working on pipes.
Wow.
No, she was she was for real.
So and I had other guests on the podcast whose parents weren't as disciplined and demanded as much from them. And now in the past, they said, or they say, I would appreciate it if they were more. What's your, now that you got a chance to look back retrospectively, what's your thoughts on your mom and that whole experience growing up?
Ooh, I appreciate it so much. Because it's my mom put stuff on your back. I was 12 with a bill. She put something on, you got this bill, this yours.
SQR podcast. You're delivering the material with so much, but there's a lot of value to that right there.
I'm not delivering material, I'm giving you a report. This is different. I'm telling you what happened. Now you had a bill. But I appreciate it now because like in my age, like I know how to go out there and get it. You know what I mean? Like I know how to hustle. I know how to pay my bills. You know, keep shit paid. Like man, I could cook, bro. I can cook. I potty train my nieces. It's wild. I do hair.
SQR podcast, Score Rosenberg Radio. My boy Kris Atkins. It's hard to even keep a straight face as we dig into some of the pain and the growth that you've gone through. But we're gonna take a quick break. Come back. I want to pick up from into high school.
Ooh,
and where
that's a good one.
Yeah, and where you coined and started realizing the talent of being so ridiculously funny. SQR podcast, Score Rosenberg Radio. Kris Atkins will be back after these messages. One.
I found my boy at my job, nigga. Nigga, she old school chick. Old school little bad bitch. She bad, man. I'm trying to tell you. She in a wheelchair too. And normally I don't look at wheelchair women, right? But I caught her going in the family restroom one day. And how she jazzy. Like, nah, bitch, she jazzy. You feel me? And she got the little rhinestone gloves and matching shoes. I caught her going in the restroom one day. She was just...
I'm not gonna do this.
She got one back there too. I ain't want her to see me, right? I ain't want her to see me live, but she caught me. She going to the restroom. And she stopped and turned around. She said, I see you watching.
SQR podcast, Score Rosenberg Radio. As we get ready to crack into the second segment of this jambalaya. I usually say omelet, but I'm going to go with a jambalaya because you're from the South. I want to big that up.
Yeah.
You know, as we get ready to crack into the journey into high school and, you know, where you honed, and maybe I'm assuming that you honed your talent for comedy during high school, so I don't want to preempt this question. So why don't we crack into this? Tell me a little bit about that transition and when you found out this may be your lane.
Comedy? Ooh, that was after high school.
Okay, so stop right there. Let's go back to high school then.
High school.
What was high school like?
Man, listen, high school was... I was a weirdo. The thing was, we grew up, so all them kids, you know, with a single mother, that money is stretched. And so, like, I wasn't name brand, so I just learned how to be a loner and just talk shit to everybody. I never, you know, wasn't interested in comedy. I was just interested in getting people up off me.
Oh, okay.
So that's what it was. So I was a loner, and like I played sports. Like I was a runner, I was an athlete. I ran hurdles, and I played football. So that was it.
Wow. What position of football?
Wide receiver.
All right, I'm Jamaican. I'm not a big football guy. I'm soccer. We play the real football.
Listen, I ain't gonna argue. I ain't come to argue with you.
No. All right, so maybe you know what? Let me just. I'm sorry. Yeah. Let me apologize to my guests. Let me reel back some of that Jamaica and testosterone. I really came at you.
Shooting and stuff.
No,
you're
calm
right. Down. Hold on, Trevor. I didn't ask you.
No, you're right. My apologies. Yeah, the Jamaican kind of come out there because I'm not exactly savvy when it comes to the football. You know, so wide receiver. Because, you know, when you think football, in American football, you think somebody's going to play that, especially in high school, you're going to be built. And, you know, you don't have the stature, you know, as I would assume you would.
Just go and say it. I ain't got the height. You just beating it. Just say it. This ain't nothing new. You act like I just got this body. I done been this way.
All right.
I'm 33. I ain't grew since I was 12. You think I ain't heard? I know what size I am, Squirrel. Just say it.
SQR podcast, Score Rosenberg Radio. I have tried to keep a straight face through this entire podcast, but let's just finish. Let's just dissect this journey without me losing composure here. So now you're in high school, and you know you realize that your mom has to stretch the dollar, so you're not wearing name brand. Of course, you're being attacked and the whole.
Oh man, listen, I don't want to get you off track, but I can tell you some stories.
Give me one of the most fascinating story.
So my mama don't like to spend no money on no shoes, right?
Right.
So I already know we ain't getting no Jordans, no Air Max, none of that shit. Cool. I'm gonna try to get some $50, $60 range.
Okay.
Look cool. Look, I go in there to go get the shoes, right? We in this little store called Just for Feet in Houston. It was like a discount store.
Right.
I go in there with the $50 shoes. I get to the register. She done went and got two $10 pair of shoes. So I was like, I want them. She was like, if you get these, you know, we can pay the light bill. We ain't got to be bumping into each other. And that way. What? Who says that to a child? I just left. I walked out the store. What can I say?
That's such a fascinating. Wow. Okay. So. Wow. So that really slapped a little bit of reality into.
That's when I started working. I got to do it. I can't go through this all the time, Squirrel. I'm not gonna do this every time.
So, how was the grades in high school?
My grades was horrible. I didn't. The problem. So I'm one of them kids that I got sense, but I ain't trying to sit down and do all this work. That's dumb. I don't. Because it don't make sense. They ask you dumb stuff. Like I get Pythagorean theorem, all that kind of stuff, but they would be mad at me like in math. I didn't like to show my work. I get a right answer. I worked it out in my head. I'm not gonna write this shit down. That's
so it works.
It worked. Like no, it worked. Trust me. I was always good at figuring stuff out.
So you made it through high school, graduated. Who was the biggest influence into the whole comedy realm and the confidence for comedy?
To go into it?
Yeah. Was it a what was it? What was the
moment where I was like, ooh, I gotta try this shit. So I was at a show. I was at this show in Houston. I had bought a ticket for me and the chick that I was with at the time. Ticket was $75. I don't make a whole lot of money. That's $150. I done spent some money. So it was like, all right, we're at the show. I bought drinks, all the kind of stuff. I got to add that money up, and I looked around the thing, and it wasn't like I knew the comedians, and I had heard their material before. I ain't trying to throw shade, but you had heard the material before, and I was like, I just started counting the seats in there and how much everybody else paid. And
so you started doing the math in your head, not on paper.
I think people been laughing the whole time I've been talking. I might well need to look into this. That's what happened.
Do you remember the comedian that was on stage?
I remember the show. I remember it was Cedric Entertainer was in town. I don't remember exactly who was on stage. I remember my boy Billy Sorrell. Shout out to Billy. He's out of Houston. He do big, like Billy good dude. He was on the show, and he was the first one that let me on stage. That's the reason why I said that, because when I got that aha moment, I went to his show, like his open mic, and he let me on stage.
Okay.
There. So that's why.
So we want to go through that right there. I want to take you back to that moment. Mm-hmm. So now you got your date. By the way, was she impressed with the? Basically, what I'm trying to figure out the most diplomatic way of saying, did you get some that night?
Oh yeah, I was getting that regardless.
Because you emphasized how much you invested in the date, so I want to make sure.
Oh yeah, this was back. I wouldn't spend. I ain't no big money spender. I'm gonna tell you the truth. I ain't got it. I tell a woman straight up, listen, baby, I ain't gonna impress you with this money. Not a chance.
No, there's a lot of confidence.
I'm a proud warrior. That's what my mama say.
You're a what?
A proud warrior.
What does that mean?
I can pray for you. I can talk to God on your behalf. Like, I don't have the money for you.
SQR podcast, Score Rosenberg Radio. He's sneaking another jewel by me right now. Tell him what you do.
I pray for. Listen, you got to find another. Listen, if you ain't got the money, figure out another way. It's another way in. You just got to find it.
So here we are. We kind of skipped through. Was there ever college in the whole journey to where you are now?
Yeah, I went to college.
Where?
I went to Prairie View. Shout out to Prairie View A&M.
Buck, big that up.
Yeah, that's my school.
What's your major? Political
science. I like politics. Dog. I got into politics. I figured out that's what it was. I like to argue.
That has nothing to do with politics.
Bullshit. Look in politics. That's the whole deal. I done been looking. That's the whole
SQR
shit.
podcast, Score Rosenberg Radio. I guess another jewel is being snuck by me as he reminds us that politics is nothing but.
It ain't nothing but arguments.
As we focus on dissecting to this, I gotta be you, that went over my head. Political science or politics wasn't in the genre of things I thought you'd have done. How did you do in that major?
So I bounced around. I did a few majors before I did that because I wanted to do like economic development.
Okay.
Because I want to do like I got good sense and I want to put the shit to work. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
It's like my community needs me to help them, figure out solutions. So that's what I wanted to do. But the college didn't have it at the time. So then I did like early childhoods, like nah, fuck that. It's like different majors I tried. It was like nah. So then when Katrina happened, 2005, I had cousins that lived in New Orleans. Katrina happened. That's when I was like, all right. And I got glued in to seeing like what the government response was. I found myself like looking into stuff because I was taking like statistics and shit, So I was putting to work putting the theories to applied work. You know what I mean?
Let me ask you this. Do you think, or do you remember or know what it was that initiated that major of study? Was it a family member that stayed in that line? Was it because you, like, I'm very curious because here you are. Let's just really recap before we take this break. You grew up in this household where dad's a Rolling Stone. There's drugs in the household. You have 6 sisters. High school you weren't doing that great, and then you go into a major that requires some due diligence. Why that major? If you can remember now, looking back.
I remember the moment. I was never a dummy. And it's a lot of kids like me that live in my hood and hoods around America and everywhere. I was never a dummy. The work was just stupid to me. They didn't know how to reach me. There were no neighborhood programs around. They was tearing down parks and shit. There were no jobs. In my hood, there ain't a bank. It's 2 banks. And 4 or 5 mile stretch. It's a big place, and there's no name brand groceries. You just get to add all this shit up to how you have to pay taxes. You have to respond to the government, and they don't respond to you. How can I figure this shit out to help the people that I know? And that's what I was in summer school my freshman year, pissed off because I didn't go home. I stayed there. I was pissed off in summer school. Then I thought about the shit. I was like, man, we only graduated 88 people out of my class. Out of them 88, only 50 went to college. Out of them 50, only 20 of them stayed for the second semester. When I started doing the math, I was like, shit. You made it. Why are you pissed off about being here? And that's when I figured you got to put your shit to work. You got to quit being dumb. Go and put your shit to work.
SQR podcast, SQR Rosenberg Radio. Kris Atkins dropping jewel, and I'm so glad you were able to segue and deliver that with so much clarity. Because as funny as you've been delivering everything else, I want my guests to understand there's a lot of truth behind this. Wise men's one tell me a comedian, is able to deliver content because they've experienced it, and I really appreciate you for delivering that. We're gonna take a quick break, come back. I want to pick up from college right into where you are right now, what you're doing, and ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna crack into a 5-minute set with my boy Kris Atkins. It's gonna be bananas. SQR podcast, SQR Rosenberg Radio. We'll be right back.
That's it, man. I'm 31. Just made 31 last month, man. Appreciate it. I'm ready to get old though. Ain't no perks in this young shit. Ain't no perks in being young. Old people got benefits to it. It's throw when you're old. Young man be trying to brag how much money he done spent on this stuff. Young man, I always try to tell you, nigga, how much you think this shirt costs? Nigga, shirt $5,000, son. Yeah, that's how they do. They do crazy stuff like that. The old man walk up on him. What you think I paid for these, huh? Look at these shoes. What you think I paid for them? $10. And my daddy did me like that the other day. Now, my daddy come in the house the other day with some size 14 Shacks on. And was proud as hell. Look at him. What you think? What you think about him? What you think about him? I said, he my size. And we wear a 9. He said he was the last ones. They was $7. If you don't take them goddamn shoes back.
SQR podcast, SQR Rosenberg Radio. As we get ready to, get into the I want to say the dessert section of this podcast with comedian Kris Atkins, which I just found out during our, behind the scenes powwow that Kris Atkins not only can change a diaper, hem a dress, but he can also change an alternator. Thanks to thanks to moms, So Mom Dukes, you were just mentioning some of the qualities you learned from her, right?
Yeah, but my mom put me to work. Just whatever she needed, that's what I was at the time.
Nice. I you know what's so funny? Before we jump into the journey up to college and where you do comedy now, looking back at those experiences and those demands that were put on you, what's your perspective on that?
Oh, Buzz, easy. It's smooth sailing for my lady. It ain't for a woman with me, because I done figured out the difficulty is learning that woman particular, because I thought I was just gonna be good with any woman because I knew women. Now you got to learn the one you with. So that's the difficulty, learning the one you with, learning her particular habits and all that kind of. But as far as clean and all that kind of stuff, nah, bro, it's
Good to go.
I'm domesticated. That's
SQR podcast, SQR Rosenberg Radio. So now we're going through college, and your comedian line has been created by the experience you saw.
Mm-hmm.
You are now getting ready to do your first set. Do you remember where you performed?
2-part answer. First part is it was a set, but I didn't think it was set. I used to host the shows at the church. I used to go to church. I got put out of every other part of, like, the choir,
you
Sunday school. Nah, I was a rebel. Hell, I would leave. Like, when the preacher get on, I'd be like, we on break. So I would leave. Like, I would take my break while he preaching. Go and do my 30.
Which is supposed to be the meat of the whole reason for going to church.
But it's a playground right down the street. I'm going to go and hit that for a while.
Okay.
So they tried me. Like, the last thing they tried me at, they let me host the programs at church. That was the first time, like, I really just, and I was doing comedy. Didn't know it was comedy then, but I was doing comedy.
So you get up on the mic, grab it, and introduce everybody and MC the show.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember if you were nervous the first time they said, here, go?
I was like, all right.
You're built for this.
Like, they done messed up. First thing I said, they was all nervous too, because, like, I was total rebel. I was getting fights out. So the first thing I said, I was like, because in the old, the black churches in the South, you have somebody get up in the programs, read the Old Testament and the New Testament. So they did that, right? And the first thing I said, I knew we had somebody that was going to read from the Old Testament. I didn't know he was from there for real. It was an old preacher, and everybody thought he was going to get offended, but he started laughing, and then it just, like, from then on, it was a natural fit. Like I would MC programs at other churches and stuff. And
no, but to ad-lib that intro at that moment in front of that audience takes some cojones, my friend.
It's just what, like, honestly, I can't do nothing else at this point. Like, the more that I done comedy, I don't belong at your job. You don't want to deal with me. You don't want to deal with me in the meetings. Interrupt with my questions. Like, you don't want me there for real. Let me do this.
The wittiness, the creativeness, you've now started honing that.
Mm-hmm.
Who are some of your idols?
Comedians. Favorite comedian, Red Fox. Hands down, my favorite comedian is Red Fox. Love the dude. Like, his wit, the joke, man, he was just sharp.
Yeah.
Red Fox, my favorite. Bernie Mac after that. Like, I love Bernie. That's my dude. After that, I got a bunch of comedians I like to hear from. Of course, the greats, everybody do. But, like, and another one, like, my surprise people that everybody really don't know is Bill Burr. Like, that's my dude. I like Bill Burr. Bill Burr got some bits.
Wow. So as you're graduating up into fine-tuning the craft, what's your process? And I don't mean to ask the secrets. You don't have to disclose this if you don't want to. What's the craft? How do you fine-tune the craft to deliver the material you do in the way you do?
It's so the mics, the open mics that you go to, like, that's like, shout out to my boy Brooklyn Mike. That's the reason why I'm in New York. First of all, like, he got me in New York. One of the hardest working comedians I know. Like, he do mics tough. Mike been in the game like 25 years, but do mics like he still just got in, a month ago. Like, the mics train you. Because you say stuff after it's an idea, you have to say it to somebody, and it just, it just cuts the fat away. It just cuts, so it's just getting up in front of them different crowds. And then for me, like, I live in Brooklyn, and there's a bunch of West Indians in Brooklyn.
Yeah, we do own that. We do own that whole
it's between
sector.
y'all and the Hasidic Jews. It's a mix. This is the funniest little thing you'd have never seen in your life. How y'all stay together? I don't get it, but whatever.
It's so funny. I'm curious because I don't want to skip around too much. How you end up from Houston to New York? I know you mentioned Brooklyn Mike got you here.
Yeah.
But that day, I'm trying to be macro, and what I mean is that day when you said, you know what, F it, I'm going.
So I met this girl, right? So I was in LA doing comedy, met this girl out there. We started talking and everything. She lived here from North Carolina. So we talking and everything. and she wanted me to come take this course, personal development course. So I was like, all right, cool, I'll come take it in August. First time I came here. Then I met Brooklyn Mike in between August and September when I was gonna come back here. So I was here in September doing shows, and I did a TV show too. I taped a TV show while I was here, and so I'm doing shows and I'm with the chick, and we having a good time, and everybody was like, why you going back home? You don't have no kids or job. And I was like, I don't know why I'm going back home. And I just didn't go back home.
What?
I just didn't go back home. Like, I remember looking at the planes that flew over. Like, I wonder which one was me.
That you were supposed to be on.
I was supposed to be on. Like, everybody was pissed. It's like, why you didn't go back? But I just made a decision, dog. Like, jump. Fuck it. Why not?
SQR Podcast, Score Rosenberg Radio. Another jewel that you're not going to sneak by. He made a decision. Jump.
Why not?
What's your mom's thoughts on?
Ooh, boy, you don't want to hear that. You messing. Ooh, you wrong for that.
Yeah, I had that in the back, and I knew I had to ask that question.
You took the mechanic, the driver, the grocery dude, the electrician.
What's mom's thought of the fact that you're now in the lane of being a comedian, or being funny, and that's your lane?
So she was nervous because my mama think I'm a baby. Like, she got all these girls, she think I'm a baby, so she was nervous. And like, I remember when I first started doing comedy, I would tell her about the stuff, and she was like, I don't think that's funny.
Your mom said that?
Yeah, and so I didn't invite them to show. Like, they didn't come to the shows to the first 5 years. Like, 5 years, I didn't invite them to shows. I ain't want no pity points. Like, I ain't want them there trying to, build my self-esteem. Now, let me deal with these strangers. Let me just see how I really fare out there in these streets. So after 5 years, when they did come, they were so nervous. You should have seen their face. Like, they was in the audience.
Do you remember the first show that she was at?
Oh, yeah. I told a joke about her.
What was the joke?
So we used to throw a paper out. True story. We threw a paper out for most of my life through high school. So we throwing the paper out one day. Long story short, somebody took the manhole cover, the sewer. Somebody took the top off. She keep throwing papers, but they ain't making it where they got to go. And she don't want to get out the car. So she keep making me get out. I'm pissed off because it's 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm supposed to be asleep.
So you're still working?
But I'm working.
You're working.
So she throw another paper. The shit don't go where it's supposed to. She look, you feel like getting that. I felt like cussing her out. I didn't. I reached to get out the car. I fell in the manhole cup. In the manhole. I catch myself by my elbows. She still don't get out the damn car. But she panicked. Threw it in park. Grab my hands! It was dramatic as shit. I slammed the door in her face. I'm thinking in my head, if I grab your hand, I'm gonna pull your ass in here. I'm just. What's wrong with you, Casey? Shit, I'm supposed to be asleep. That's what's wrong with me. All the other children sleep.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Oh man, I can tell you a whole story about that. It's a whole story.
However, I seem to have picked up a lot of and maybe it's a therapeutic route.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think it was for me and her. I think it is for me and my sisters. Like the shit we went through, like dealing with a parent on drugs and a single parent church. I think it is for all of us, cause like they was in there gasping, but when I dropped the joke and it hit, they was like, all right, I think. And I remember she told me, she was like, I remember looking around at people and I could see their teeth. Like, my mama, she real dramatic. I could see their teeth, Casey. They had their head back. And so she felt calm. She was like, all right, you found something you like.
SQR Podcast, Score Rosenberg Radio. Kris Atkins sharing that intimate moment and that journey. As we get ready to wrap on this, I always dissect with my guests and ask them, now that you're in the lane that you are and you've found your talent, I give you the magic wand and you can make 2 wishes you have. I just gave it to you, bang. The only disclaimer is the second wish cannot be 2 more wishes.
Damn, that was the first wish.
Okay, so go.
2 wishes, magic wand, anything I want.
Or anything you want to do.
First wish, political influence. I want that.
Elaborate.
On political influence?
Yeah, briefly.
Man, I love politics, dog. Like, if people just would figure out what your vote do and how your dollars actually transpire into, like, actions, either for or against stuff, quit striking and marching and all that. I ain't against it. I feel you, but do it with your dollars. It make more sense than with your vote. If you put people where they supposed to be, or you run for office yourself, you quit having all them damn problems. You don't have a seat at the table because you don't even try to sit down.
SQR podcast, Score Rosenberg Radio, another jewel. Wow. Second
wish, why not? I just want to be on vacation riding roller coasters.
SQR podcast, Score Rosenberg Radio. My boy Kris Atkins, thank you so much for a wonderful podcast, my dude. You know, the journey has been amazing. We're going to close out on this, and, you know, thank you so much. We want to, as we close out, let people know where they can find you, if they need to book you. We're going to do a quick 5-minute set, so we're going to post that too, but let people know where they can get in touch with you, my boy.
Man, everywhere you look for me is Kris Atkins Comedy, KrisAtkins Comedy, Kris Atkins Comedy, everywhere. I got a website. I don't really maintain it well. I'm getting better. I be on Instagram. I DM you and comment on your story, but that's where I'm at, like, most of the time. But now, you want to book me, go through all that. I do all my own stuff right now. I appreciate it. This is a hell of an opportunity, bro. I like the whole back cave. This shit is nice.
It's your podcast, Score Rosenberg Rain, as we lift these Heinekens. Kris Atkins, 1.